In the previous video, we created our enum and then set it up so that way we can dictate what weapon is in our hands to correspond to what weapon to correspond to what animation we're going to play. And that seems to be working okay. So now we're going to set up the M1 Carbine. And I want to point out a change that I want to make here in the near future because I'm not happy with quite how I'm doing the weapons. So currently I have a weapon base class and then a 1911 class derived off that. Well, I want to change this up to just simplify it. So I want to have the weapon base class, then I want to have a semi-auto, a full auto, shotgun, and a special class. Well, the special class will probably be not really, that'll be done later on. That'll be for things such as the ray gun and or the Wonderwaff if we ever actually create that. That's going to be probably the hardest part of this. So for now, I'm going to make a temporary class, and I'm just going to simply derive it from this class here. So I'm just going to copy and paste the blueprint 1911, go to my M1 Carbine, and paste it in. And let's rename this one to BP underscore M1 Carbine. Open it up. Change the mesh to the M1 Carbine. Okay, there it is. I'm being blind. Change the, let's see. Have the fire animation. We're going to do the, let's see, M1 Carbine fire for the fire animation. Then I'm just going to leave the montage because we currently don't have a montage set up for the shooting for the M1 Carbine. So we have our M1 Carbine set up. Now we need to change the weapon ID from code 1911 to M1 Carbine. Compile and save. So let's see. Still playing the correct animations for the 1911. And now when we go to our character class, over here we have the starting weapon class. Let's do the EP M1 Carbine. Compile and save. Now we should have the M1 Carbine in our hands, which we do. We just need to set up the animations. So let's go to our animation blueprint for our FPS arms. And what I want to do is I want to actually copy this 1911 state machine here and rename it to M1 Carbine. Let's open it up, open up idle to run, delete, and we're going to just simply drag off the M1 Carbine animations that correspond to what we're doing here. So here we have just the normal idle. So we have M1 Carbine if idle, drag out, connect that, and delete the 1911 animation node. Go to our aimed idle to run, same thing again. This one's the idle ADS, so ADS idle. Yes, I know my names are inconsistent, sorry. Then we compile and save, and we should be good to go. So go ahead and give it a test. Okay, something's still not right. So let's try to figure out what exactly that is. Probably that I never actually plugged it in. So for our blend poses, right click, add pin for element M1 Carbine, connect the M1 Carbine state machine into the M1 Carbine pose, compile, and save. And try it again. And there we go. So now we have the animations playing for our M1 Carbine, just like normal. And whenever we want, let's say we pick up a 1911 or something, it's in our hand, and we're now playing the animations for the 1911 because that's the weapon that we have in our hand. And it's as simple as that. So I'm going to go through and I want to try to re-explain this one more time, even though I did partially in the next previous video. So hopefully if this is confusing to anyone, it'll maybe make a little bit of sense because I kind of want to have a dedicated mini series on this as well. So what we do to pretty much tackle this is we create a simple enum that contains what weapon animations we want to use. So if we have, for example, in 1911 and an M1 Carbine, they're drastically different. So we're going to have two different animations playing for that. If we had several different variations, such as just a normal AR-15 with, certain let's just say a normal Picatinny rail handguard. So we would have one specific weapon for that, or enum for that, and the rest we don't really need several after that. We would only need it if we had a certain attachment, such as we wanted a different animation to play for a, let's say an AR that has, I don't know, for whatever reason, a grenade launcher or something attachment where your hand would have to be in a different position, assuming we're not using any sort of constraints. So we would have one for each drastically different weapon that's going to be using different animations. Then we have a simple setter, well, setting function that we dictate in our engine called weapon ID. And then we have a simple getter. And that getter, all it does is returns our weapon ID. From there, we go to our animation blueprint, the event graph. We call our getWeaponID function to simply set a variable that is of the type of our enum, so eWeaponID. And we use that as kind of our driver, I guess it could be called, to drive our blend poses for that enum. And that enum just simply takes in a bunch of state machines. So we have our 1911 state machine and our M1 Carbine state machine. And that simply gets pushed into the output pose. That's all. So hopefully you found this useful. And we're going to continue on this and just kind of set up the rest of the animations and stuff like that to play, I think, in the next few videos, just so it's more complete and ready to go. So now that that's out of the way, I will see you in the next one.